with Brian Wilson live in Charlotte. This is Common Sense coverage of the Democratic National Convention with Brian and Brian, sponsored by the Media Research Center. 105.9 FM and AM 630. WMAL.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to WMAL. It's where Washington comes to talk. Brian Wilson, I'm on scene here in Charlotte as the Democrats kick off their big convention. Brian Neiman back in the studios in D.C. because he's on baby watch.
That's right, and no baby to report as of yet. At least that I know. I probably should check my phone, though.
Yeah, check your messages. Well, we are joined here on Radio Row in Charlotte by my good friend from Fox News Channel days and now a member of the Cumulus family, Geraldo Rivera, now doing syndicated radio for Cumulus. How are you, Geraldo? Good to see you.
Good morning, Brian. How you doing?
All right, so before we start talking about what's going to happen here this week, I'd like your thoughts about how you think things went for the Republicans down in Tampa.
I think they were going pretty well. I think Clint Eastwood, that whole catastrophe, we tend to laugh it off, but I really do think that if you could use an Olympic race metaphor and it was a relay, and you pass it Huckabee to Paul Ryan to Marco Rubio, and then they give it to Clint Eastwood. Well, actually, before Marco Rubio, leading up to Mitt Romney, I think that it was such a gross distraction that's why Mitt Romney's speech is rating so low, the second lowest since they've been tracking those kinds of things. I really think it was really
a momentum killer. Is that what you're saying?
It really was a momentum killer, no doubt about it. Now the speech itself, Mitt Romney's speech, our own Chris Wallace described it as workmanlike. It wasn't soaring oratory, but it was a pretty good speech, and I thought that he really did a good job earlier in the evening, for example, with that elderly couple telling the story of how
very powerful, wasn't it?
Really, really powerful, and that's the message and that's the vibe we should have carried to the candidate's speech. Instead, we had this distraction, and everyone was scratching their heads, what, and then it was really starting all over again. Rubio trying to pick up the ball, the drop baton to keep my metaphor going, and then go on.
All right, so now as the Democrats gather, what's your thought about what they need to come in? After all, they're preaching, they're trying to get the base excited because they need to do that, but they're also talking to those small number of yet undecided voters.
Right, and that is a very elusive group to pin down.
And a small group.
And a tiny group. I think most people have made up their minds. I would keep, if I were them, I'm not in the business of giving political advice, but I think the middle class, extolling the virtue of the middle class and the needs of the middle class over the wealthiest, and talking, I saw that Paul Ryan had a soundbite on 60 Minutes some months ago in which he said we have to close the loopholes that only favor the very wealthy. I think using Paul Ryan's sound against Mitt Romney, that's what I would do were I them. And I think that Bubba will do a great job. I think that Bill Clinton is adored. He's going to get up there. He's going to just homeboy it, and we're all in this together and remind people of the good old days before impeachment.
Do you think that Bill Clinton wants to give this speech? Do you think he'll give a full-throated endorsement of Barack Obama?
Well, first of all, Brian, congratulations to you on your baby watch.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Geraldo. That's fantastic.
Having been down that road 5 times myself, I know what it's like. I believe that he will be, they're going to have to restrain him. I think he's busting to get out there.
Oh, really?
He wants to sing this song before this big crowd, tens of millions of people again. And there he is one more time in the center of all the action.
He likes coming in and being the guy who rescues things, right?
And I think he loves that characterization. And I'm hoping to talk to him in the next couple of days. He's come a long way since those days, 1998, right. 1999, when the whole world was against him.
Well, let me ask you this, because obviously the Republicans always yearn for the years of Ronald Reagan, and they use Ronald Reagan all the time. Is Barack Obama in a problem area, because if Bubba gives this speech, if President Clinton gives this great speech, be like, wow, remember how great it was under Clinton? Is he the new Reagan of the Democratic Party?
Well, I wonder what Reagan's impact would have been if he had come out on stage for, some of his successors. I think that there would have been a rub off of some of the good vibe. I think that if, for example, the president were to come out at the end of Bill Clinton's speech and just give him a hug, not even have to say anything, just to give that implied.
But would there be an optic of, wow, Barack Obama is not Bill Clinton?
Well, I think that when you consider that the president's most virulent enemies have been trying to portray him as this movie Obama 2016 and some of these other phenomenon as the other, the outsider, who is this guy, we don't know this guy, he's a foreigner, and all the rest of that, I think being with the good old familiar Bill from Hope, Arkansas would be helpful.
Democrats have some real challenges here. I mean, they're still fighting this soundbite that the president gave about you didn't build that. It's still resonating, and the Republicans have made a great deal of hay out of all that. They've got problems with their union base because they're holding their convention in a town that's in a right-to-work state. So they've got those issues to contend with. And have you looked at the arena?
I haven't opened the curtains yet. I'm hoping we're looking right at it now. Just peeking through.
Incredibly small. I mean, really. Michael Barone said he's been to 22 conventions. He thinks this is the smallest floor he's ever seen.
Well, and on the other hand, sometimes you give a party in your smaller room because you want it to look packed and energetic.
Maybe so.
Going back to what your other point, you didn't build this. I think that has resonance. I think that if the Democrats, driven by their union base, seem in any way to be anti-business, particularly small business, particularly the guys that file like me as corporations and have a couple of employees, household employees or whatnot. If they sound that sour note at all, I think that they could lose that elusive vote that you're talking about. And also, I hope they don't go off the rails in terms of the social issues like abortion. The Gingrich and others are calling their platform the most extreme ever, abortion on demand and all the rest of that. I hope that they don't even barely mention it. I think a woman's, in allegorical terms, a woman's right to choose, that sort of more gentle mentions of it, reminding women, single women, the largest demo in the country, that these angry old white guys want to control your bodies. I think that would be helpful, but if they start talking about, unbridled right to abortion, I think they're doomed.
Yeah. Geraldo Rivera, it is always a pleasure to see you,
Brian,
my friend.
my pleasure, bud.
And and welcome to Charlotte.
I remember so clearly the days when you used to elbow away those demonstrators coming after the people with plastic microphones.
All right,
we miss that. We miss that.
I'm a mellower man these days.
That's what we all say.
Geraldo, good to see you.
You too, bro.